Who is the most talented division in the NFL going into the 2020 NFL season? In this video, I will break down the AFC South's most talented players at every position, giving you the AFC South's 2020 NFL All-Star team, position by position, giving you the AFC South's best player at that position, breaking down the team of all-stars in the AFC South. But before I do dive into the best players from the Colts, Titans, Texans, and Jags, make sure that you do spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion. Let me know in the comment section below, who do you think deserves to be on the AFC South's All-Star team? Kicking off the AFC South All-Star team, the quarterback position, none other than Deshaun Watson. Watson, for my money, is one of the top 5, maybe even top 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL today. And Watson can basically do anything you ask, whether that's move outside the pocket, scramble, extend the play to hit a deep shot down the field, or use his legs to make magic that way. Deshaun Watson, he can do everything you want for a modern quarterback in the NFL in 2020. At the running back position, the 2 running backs I have for the AFC South, I went with 2 power backs. First, obviously, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was unreal. King Henry, as they call him, was the king of the AFC last year when it came to January, December, and playoff football. He was running over the Ravens, running over the Patriots, running over teams to basically carry the Titans to the AFC Championship. He is the heart and soul of the Titans offense and definitely the best running back in the AFC South. The question was, who is the second best running back in the AFC South? Ultimately, I did decide to go with Leonard Fournette, who is very similar to Henry. He's just kind of like a worse version of Henry. I think he has maybe a little bit more in terms of that extra gear to turn it on, to go 0 to 60 and just hit a big play, although Derrick Henry is amazing in that regard as well. 2 of the best power backs in the NFL right now. So hit them with Henry, hit them with Fournette. It's like a sledgehammer just over and over again, knocking the door down of the defense, tiring a defense out. And Fournette and Henry would be an awesome duo in that regard. You could just completely play power football 1970 style and win that way with these 2 backs. At the wide receiver and tight end spot, this is a division that I feel you could argue a lot of different players for the wide receiver position, because I don't think there are 3 that clearly stand out above the rest. There are 2 new names that if I was doing this list last year, no way they make this list. A.J. Brown of the Tennessee Titans, who's a rookie last year, came on very strong at the end of the year, and just like Derrick Henry, was a huge reason they were able to make that playoff run, able to really make that run at the end of the regular season, and had a great rapport with Ryan Tannehill. And then you look at DJ Chark, who was very similar last year with his breakout year. In his second season, he is just a freak physically in terms of the speed, leaping ability, height combination that he possesses. He's probably one of the more underrated receivers in the game today, and he's great down the field as well. So you have Chark and you have A.J. Brown, who can just really stretch the field, both fast, but both also pretty tall and physical. And then you throw in the speed of T.Y. Hilton, who I know is not exactly what he used to be, but I would still say is one of the 3 best receivers in this division. And Hilton, the thing with him is he can play a little bit of every position at the wide receiver spot. He can play out wide, he can play in the slot, and you can move him around. He can run just about any route, but he is known also for his downfield ability. So you combine these 3 receivers with Deshaun Watson's deep passing and his arm, and you have something really magical in that combination. You could also throw a guy like Will Fuller in there, and I wouldn't be mad at you, but I do like these 3 over a Will Fuller. And then at the tight end position, I went with Jonnu Smith. The tight end spot is not amazing in the AFC South, but I did go with Jonnu Smith because I feel like he's the most well-rounded. Bill Belichick called him the best tight end after the catch in the league, which is maybe debatable when you have guys like George Kittle in the NFL. But Jonnu Smith, when he gets his hands on the ball, because of that speed, because of that quickness, he has ability to really do some damage. And that well-rounded ability will really help the run game and that power element with those two running backs. So I felt he was the best option at this position. Now, transferring to the offensive line, starting at the tackle spot, I went with Laramie Tunsil at the left tackle position. Of course, the Texans paid a absolute huge sum to add Tunsil to their offensive line and to protect Deshaun Watson. And Watson will have his left tackle, his blindside protector for the AFC South All-Star squad. Tunsil is one of the best young pass blockers in the NFL, definitely deserving at this spot. For the right tackle position, it was a little interesting because I went again with a left tackle moving over to the right tackle. I want a little bit more in terms of a guy that can run block a little bit more, maybe has to do more in terms of with his legs and can move a little bit more. So it was between Lewan of the Titans and Costanzo of the Colts, but I ultimately did decide to go with Lewan just because of his physical capability. He's a little bit younger, he's a little bit stronger, he's a little bit bigger, he can move a little bit more. Obviously, he had a ton of success late in the season with Derrick Henry blocking for Henry, so I went with him at the right tackle spot. Obviously, Conklin left the division, so couldn't add him. Now, to the interior of the offensive line, the guard, center, guard, I went with just an awesome trio here. We have Quentin Nelson at the left guard, who many would argue is the best offensive lineman in the NFL, period, especially when it comes to run blocking. The center spot, you have Jones from the Titans, who's one of the most underrated centers and one of the most underrated offensive linemen, period, in the NFL. He ranked in the top 3 from PFF last year. And then you have Roger Saffold, also from the Titans, who had an amazing season last year, run blocking for Derrick Henry and actually ranked even higher as a pass protector. So Saffold is awesome. He can play tackle, he can play guard, and really you saw the difference with the Rams last year when he was not in the lineup. Now to the defense, starting off with the interior defensive line. You're talking about an absolute destructive, dominant interior defensive line. J.J. Watt coupled with DeForest Buckner, who is now newly traded to the Colts. That's one of the best, probably the best interior pass rushing duo. And I know J.J. Watt technically for the Texans plays edge, but the way I look at it is he does play 3-4 end, which technically is interior. So I put him as an interior lineman, and I think he could easily play D tackle in a 4-3 if you asked him to. Of course, DeForest Buckner with San Francisco was putting up incredible sack totals. He's one of the best interior pass rushers in the game, but has become more well-rounded as of late. So those two would just dominate. And then to the edge position, this was very difficult to determine, especially the second spot. But going back and actually looking at his 2019 season, Justin Houston had a really good year in 2019 that I think went under the radar because the Colts weren't the playoff team that they were a year ago, but he really did produce for them, and I expect him to again in 2020. Josh Allen, the rookie from last year, had an amazing season as a pass rusher. I think he's going to be the leader of that defense going forward in Jacksonville. So you have Houston and Allen on the edges of Watt and Buckner. Then you move to the second level at linebacker, and you have Darius Leonard and Jayon Brown. Brown is probably the one that people are like, I'm not sure about him. There's other guys like on the Texans with McKinney and Cunningham, who are both very good players, but I think Jayon Brown can do a little bit more. He's more versatile. I think he can cover a little bit better. He's faster. He can play the run as well, but I think you saw in Tennessee how important he is to this defense. And of course, Darius Leonard, who's arguably the best cover linebacker in the game, arguably the most athletic linebacker in the game. He's just all around. If you maybe had to pick a linebacker for an all-star team in the NFL right now, he's at the top of the list in the league. Moving on to the secondary, which I feel is probably the worst part of the AFC South team. It's not nearly as impressive as the AFC East. It's still got some pretty talented players, though, when you really look down the list. Of course, Kevin Byard at free safety, who's one of the best cover safeties in the league. He has great range, and he's kind of like the prototype for the Vrabel Pease Tennessee defense that he's been running over the last few seasons. And then you look at strong safety, and technically I went with a safety-safety duo because both of these guys play free safety, but I think they could play either spot and play it well. And if you wanted to run like a cover 2 shell more often, deep halves on both sides, you could have Justin Reed on one side and you could have Kevin Byard on the other, and I think they would be amazing together. Of course, they both have incredible speed and range, so this would just be really good for coverage duo at the safety spot. Maybe not the traditional strong safety that you would like, but I think these are the two best safeties for my money in this division. And then you go to the corner position. Adoree Jackson is the best corner in this division, in my opinion. He's been a little banged up in recent seasons and hasn't always been on the field, but when he has, he's shown that he can go one-on-one with some of the best receivers in the league because he has the size, but he also has incredible speed, and he's just very good in man-to-man coverage. He needs to get better in terms of his playing the ball and causing turnovers, but that's a little bit of nitpicking. At the DB position, I have Kenny Moore of the Indianapolis Colts. Kenny Moore's had 2 really good seasons in a row. He's just a really smart player. He can blitz a little bit. He can cover from the nickel spot. And that's exactly what you want in this DB spot. A guy that can do a little bit of everything, flexibility and scheme versatility. At the other corner position across from Adoree Jackson, I picked Bradley Roby, and again, this is the weakest of all the positions in this division, but I felt Bradley Roby actually had a really good 2019. Nobody really talked about it. He re-signed with the Texans. He's just about their only corner that I really like on that team. And when you look at the rest of the division, I think Malcolm Butler is declined for the Titans. I'm not so sure about Xavier Rhodes for the Colts. And the Jags, like CJ Henderson's a rookie, so I wasn't necessarily going to put him here. I think Roby did go versus a lot of number 1 receivers last year and held his own a lot of the times. And when you look at his stats, look at his coverage grades, he played pretty well. So I would go with those 3 at the corner DB positions, and that would round out the AFC South defense. Great pass rush, mediocre secondary, but a really good front 7. Now to the coaches. The coaches were interesting because you could argue 3 different guys could be the head coach, and you could kind of move around the rest of the guys as you see fit. I went with Bill O'Brien as the head coach because I feel like he would be the best at, although I do think Mike Vrabel would be very good at this as well, kind of commanding a team and commanding a room. You have to give credit in the consistency and longevity of what Bill O'Brien has done for the Texans. Remember, the Texans were not a very good franchise until Bill O'Brien got there. You know, Gary Kubiak had a couple good years, but O'Brien's been more consistent in winning and getting to the playoffs, and has even done it with bad quarterback play. And then the offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, is by far the best offensive mind in this division. And I think he would put together a very nice offense being in that role before. And then defensive coordinator, I went with Vrabel. I would have went with Vrabel at the head coach position if there was another defensive guy that really stood out. But to me, Vrabel is the best defensive mind in this division. So it was an easy choice to divide these 3 coaches properly into the roles that I wanted them in. And then you look at the special teams, and they have a really good underrated special teams, I think. Lambeau is an excellent kicker. Because he plays in Jacksonville, nobody really knows who he is, but he's very consistent. I think he only missed 1 field goal last year, if I'm not mistaken, so he's just about automatic. You have Kern at punter, who's arguably the best in the league, and he had an incredible wild card game versus the Patriots. And then their returner, I went with Nyheim Hines, who's the, of course, 3rd down running back for the Colts, but he had 2 punt return touchdowns last year, so I felt like punt return, kick returning, he is the best in that regard as well. So there you have it, the AFC South All-Star Squad. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of it. Do you think it's better than the other AFC teams? Do you think it's the best in the AFC? How do you think it stacks up in the NFL for the all-star teams across the board? And do you agree with my selections? It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View. Thanks for watching. Peace.